Jarvis, 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 Jarvis. I had to say your name 4 times because we got 4 dubs in a row. The Hawks
Yes.
are finally rolling for the first time this season. 4 straight wins. Of course, that was a 130-122 win in Dallas over the Mavericks, another red hot team that also was bringing players back off their injury list in the likes of Dorian Finney-Smith. So you're thinking, hey, they're loaded. They had a virtually clean injury report, just like the Hawks. And the reason I say that, Jarvis, is because when you start getting these kinds of wins and you have teams that are at full strength and you're at full strength, give credit where credit is due. But speaking of giving credit where credit is due, we said it in the beginning of the show and we're going to say it again. But I will not sing it because I am not gifted in that area. But go, DJ. That's my TJ. Hey. So it is Dejounte
Yes,
Murray,
yes,
the guy
yes,
who
yes.
had 30 points and 7 rebounds and 4 assists and 3 steals in the game and put a straight clamp and locked down Luka Doncic. Do we think the secret sauce, we've kind of found it?
Yes, and I think it doesn't necessarily. And at the beginning of when the Hawks were really struggling, I was saying like, hey, look, Trae has to hit his shots. He has to hit his shots more. And we know that Trae was taking a lot of shots and everything like that. But I think I like this a little bit better. I
Yeah.
like this
Oh,
this
I
mode.
love this.
Yeah. Let me change that. I'm sorry. Let me stop being
Yeah.
being shy. I love this
Yep.
sauce. I love this sauce. This is Chick-fil-A sauce right now. Like, yeah,
Polynesian, that's his
yeah,
favorite.
yeah, the Polynesian. You know what I'm saying? I got to get my Chick-fil-A sauce in there. This is a Polynesian Chick-fil-A sauce type thing going on, and here's what that entails for those of you who don't know or didn't watch the game last night. It involves setting the tone on defense. How
Yes.
about that? To start the game off. The DJ up here talking about, yeah, let me get those cookies, and I'm about to drop this layup in on y'all. And
Yes.
then, yeah, Luka went off for 19 in the first quarter, but how about the second quarter? 0. How about that? And when you just think about the defensive game plan too, even Nate McMillan's son was out here dropping a little couple of Jews here coming back from halftime, talking about, hey, throwing different waves at Luka Doncic and making sure they're hitting that weak side corner 3 because it was open all night. And then John Collins out here hitting that corner 3 because they knew, coach knew, Nate McMillan knew, the assistants knew, everybody knew that weak side 3 was going to be there, and you
Yes.
saw them take advantage of that. So I love the facilitating Trae, picking and choosing his spots when he knows he needs to go ahead and close out the game, which he did last night.
Indeed.
With hitting those free throws and saying, "Hey, give me the rock. I'm about to make all these free throws, and we about to
Yes.
get out here and get this dub." So I
Yeah.
absolutely love this. They need to keep the Chick-fil-A and the Polynesian, T. They need to keep
Yeah.
the Chick-fil-A and the Polynesian, please.
Exactly. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I've said this from day one. I've never been a fan of the 30 plus point Trae because I always believe if Trae has 35 to 40 points, I'm looking at everybody else's stat line and it's not going to look good.
What you doing?
But when I see 11 dimes, that makes me happy. And when I see 8 free throws, not just 8 for 8, but the fact that you got to the line several times, because the Hawks really did not get a lot of calls last night, right? But for him to get called, for him to make those, you could argue the case, Jarvis, that his 8 free throws were the difference in the game score-wise. 130 to 122. So I love to see that he was being aggressive in getting to the rack. I like to see that he was capitalizing on it. And I like to see that Nate McMillan actually took the opportunity to say, wait a minute, DeAndre Hunter is struggling. DeAndre's in foul trouble. He can't get his rhythm on offense. Let me put DJ on Luka Doncic and let's see if that makes a difference. It does. Because yes, Dre and Luka, that's big on big, but Luka didn't know what to do with that speed of Dejounte Murray, that athleticism of Dejounte Murray. That's how he's able
wingspan, 6'5". That's crazy.
There you go. He did not know what to do with that. And so that's the kind of thing. Let's shout out, like you said, Nate McMillan and his entire coaching staff for seeing little gaps where they could take advantage of it and then using it, even inserting AJ Griffin into the lineup at crucial times and being able to, for him to be able to shoot threes. I mean, I do wish I could see Jalen Johnson just a little bit more, but we'll have that conversation tomorrow as we preview Hawks Knicks. But ultimately speaking, I think that our question is, have the Hawks figured it out? Overall, I would say they're figuring. Because this is, like I said, only the second time maybe this entire season that we've seen a clean injury report. So back to back at that. So if we can take a clean injury report, assuming, Trae came back into the game after he kind of rolled that ankle. So assuming he's good to go for Friday, assuming that Clint Capela can still go, and maybe they'll give him a few more minutes. He was 23 last night, I think it was, Jarvis.
Yeah,
So
look
maybe
over
they'll give
20.
him a few more minutes. Yeah, if we can get a clean injury report like that, that's step one. That's step one. And then if everybody can continue to play their part, play your position, then yeah, I think we're close to them figuring it out.
Speaking of position, T, let me bounce this off for you. Let me see what you think about this. Because, last night I was sitting on my couch and sitting there watching the game.
Mhm.
And I was looking at something, like, cause a lot of times when you have a guy, that's coming towards the end of his career, and he can be injury prone a little bit, and I was like, Yeka Congo has these last few games. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Clint Capella coming off the bench. I like Clint coming off the bench. He
Mhm.
paired up with, Trae, you know what I'm saying, when DJ is out the game, and that pick and roll look real nice with Mr. Capella coming off the pine. So I say all that to say, what do you think about Clint coming off the bench going forward for the rest of the season? Or at least for the time being?
Yeah. I would say for at least another week, I could certainly see that, because
Yeah.
I do think that they want to be very, very careful to have CC available down the stretch. But I think ultimately Onyeka still has a lot of growing to do in terms of knowing how to defend without necessarily fouling. That's the one area where maybe we can get, because he's developing that jumper. That's a good thing, right? He
Mm-hmm.
is getting back to his old self, who we used to see who could take on any big and really give them fits. We're starting to see that again. The one area where he's got to grow is learning how to foul, either one of two things. Well, really both, Jarvis. Fouling at the right time and fouling the right way.
Good Lord.
Once he figures that out, he's going to be a beast. But I do think Clint
Yeah.
Capella, just overall, his skill set is probably still that of a starter. And I think Onyeka Okongwu's skill set is getting there to be able to be a starter. But it's a very intriguing and compelling thing. And I wouldn't mind if Nate McMillan tried to play around with that, because we know that he's been trying to work some rosters for a while now to see exactly what's going to work.
Yeah, I think that'll be something that to keep an eye on, because I really feel like Clint Capella against the second team, anybody's second team big, I'll take that matchup pretty
Yes.
much any day and all day. So especially when teams don't really put too much value in those guys like that anymore anyway. And just from a rebounding standpoint, man, that'll be very interesting to see. But
And
I
I'm
think, but go
no,
ahead.
you go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say that's one of the things that I feel like that can be to the Hawks' advantage as he's coming off of this injury, as he's still playing limited minutes from this time for the time being. So that'd be something kind of take a good look at, I believe, for Nate McMillan that can use it as an advantage.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That is an excellent point, because bringing a player back too soon, we've seen how that can be. There can be consequences to that, right?
Yeah.
And as much as I hate to say it, you got to give credit where credit is due. And I'll just wrap up saying this. John Collins was 3 of 5 from the perimeter, and he's actually taking quality shots and not just quantity shots. Got to give him credit, because his 3 threes came at some really crucial moments in that game. And yet he didn't fall off with everything else that he was responsible for at the other end of the court, right? He was that close to a double-double. And so I really appreciate him focusing on improving that part of his game, but not to the detriment of the rest of his game. So, it's interesting to see, because boy, the Hawks, they're heating up at the right time. They are heating up at the right time. And speaking of heating up, the coaching carousel in the NFL is heating up. If you want to know more about that, you know where you should go, right? After you check us out, because we're going to give you information on what's happening with the coaching pseudo carousel with the Falcons, but the real coaching carousel with the NFL, that's Locked On Sports Today. They give you all of the reaction to any and everything that's happening. Even, a few shakeups right here in the NFC South, for example. Of course, Byron Leftwich is gone from Tampa. And so I'm sure they're going to give reactions to that, along with several other staff members on Todd Bowles' crew. And so you want to know about it? You know where to go. Check out the Odyssey app. Wherever you download your podcast, go there too. And of course, they are on YouTube. So always stop here for the best and the latest news from the ATL sports scene. But you know what's next up. Locked On Sports Today, because if you want their version of For the Culture, which is take of the day, well, you probably got to check them out today.